The morning sun rose over New Haven Colony like it always did. Minji Park woke up early, her small hands rubbing sleep from her eyes. She was 7 years old with bright, curious eyes and a smile that could light up any room. Today was special. Her school class was going on a field trip to see the old ruins near the valley. Her brother Tae-hyun, who was 12, helped her put on her backpack. He was protective of his little sister, always making sure she stayed safe. Their parents had left early for work at the mining facility, so Tae-hyun walked Minji to the school transport station. He watched her climb aboard with her classmates, all of them chattering excitedly about the day ahead. New Haven was a frontier colony, one of dozens that humans had built on distant worlds. Life here was simple but good. The colonists worked hard, raised their families, and looked forward to humanity's future among the stars. They had joined the Galactic Council 50 years ago, and everyone believed it meant peace and prosperity for Earth, but not everyone in the galaxy saw humans as equals. To most of the 12 ancient species who ruled the Council, humanity was young and insignificant. Humans were tolerated, not respected. They were given small roles and expected to be grateful for the privilege of membership. The field trip took the children to the valley, where ancient alien ruins stretched across the landscape. These ruins belonged to the Vorians, one of the oldest and proudest species in the galaxy. The Vorians treated their historical sites as sacred places, protected by strict laws and armed guards. Minji's teacher, Mrs. Kwan, led the children along the marked path. She reminded them repeatedly to stay together and not touch anything. The Vorian guards watched from their posts, their weapons visible and their faces showing no emotion. But Minji was 7, and 7-year-olds are curious. When she saw something shiny near the edge of the path, she wandered over to look. It was a small stone, smooth and glowing with soft blue light. She thought it was the most beautiful thing she had ever seen. Without thinking, she picked it up. The Vorian guards saw her immediately. They shouted in their language, harsh sounds that frightened her. Minji dropped the stone and raised her hands, confused and scared. She did not understand what she had done wrong. She just wanted to look at the pretty stone. Mrs. Kwan started running toward Minji, shouting for the guards to wait. But the guards did not wait. Their protocols were clear. Anyone who touched a sacred relic must be stopped immediately. They raised their weapons and fired. The energy blast hit Minji in the chest. She fell without making a sound. Mrs. Kwan reached her seconds later, dropping to her knees and screaming for help. The other children stood frozen in shock. Some started crying. The Vorian guards lowered their weapons and returned to their posts, their duty completed according to regulations. Tae-hyun heard about his sister's death within the hour. He had been at home when the emergency call came through. He ran to the medical center, his heart pounding with fear and hope. Maybe it was a mistake. Maybe Minji was just hurt. But when he arrived, he saw his parents crying, and he knew. His little sister was gone. The news spread across New Haven Colony within hours. A child had been killed. A human child shot by alien guards for touching a stone. The colonists were shocked and angry. They demanded answers. They demanded justice. On Earth, Ambassador So-min Choi received the report and felt her blood run cold. She had served in the Galactic Council for 15 years. Always trying to build bridges between humanity and the older species. She had believed in the system, in the idea that different civilizations could work together peacefully. Now a 7-year-old girl was dead, killed for making a child's mistake. So-min Choi called for an emergency session of the council. She stood before the 12 species representatives and demanded justice. She showed them pictures of Minji alive and smiling. She played the security footage from the ruins, showing a small child picking up a stone and then being shot down without warning. The council deliberated for 3 days. So-min Choi waited, hoping and praying that they would do the right thing. She believed that when they saw the evidence, when they understood what had happened, they would hold the guards accountable. She was wrong. The council's verdict came on the 4th day. Archmagistrate Velcros of the Vorian delegation delivered it personally. His voice was cold and formal, showing no emotion as he spoke. The guards had followed proper protocols. The child had violated sacred ground. Human parents should have supervised their young better. Human educators should have taught their students about council laws. No criminal charges would be filed. No one would be punished. The council offered a formal apology and a small payment to Minji's family. Then Velcros looked at Soman Choi and said words that would echo through history. Your species must learn that ignorance of our laws is not an excuse. This matter is closed. Soman Choi stood there unable to speak. She had devoted her career to diplomacy, to peaceful cooperation, but in that moment she understood a terrible truth. The Council did not see humans as equals. They saw humans as inferior beings, who should be grateful for whatever scraps of justice were thrown their way. She sent her report to Earth that night. A child is dead. The Council refuses to act. Justice has been denied. On Earth, the response was immediate and explosive. The news channels showed Minji's picture alongside the Council's cold verdict. People poured into the streets in every major city. Protests filled the squares. Anger burned hot and bright across the entire planet. In her office at Earth Defense Command, Admiral Ji-Woo Han watched the protests on the news feeds. She was 53 years old and had spent her entire career in space, defending Earth with outdated ships and limited resources. She knew exactly how weak humanity was compared to the Council's military might. But she also knew something the Council did not, something that had been kept secret for 80 years, something that could change everything. Admiral Han picked up her secure communication device and made a call. The person who answered was President Do-Hyun Lee, leader of Earth's government. Mr. President, she said quietly. It's time to wake up the fleet. There was a long pause on the other end. Then President Lee spoke, his voice heavy with the weight of the decision. Convene the Security Council. We meet in 1 hour. The submarine descended through the dark waters of the Pacific Ocean, going deeper than any commercial vessel had ever traveled. Inside, Admiral Ji-Woo Han sat quietly, thinking about the decision they had made. President Do-Hyun Lee and the Security Council had voted to activate the fleet. It had not been unanimous, but it had been decisive. Secretary General Hyuna Nam had argued against it until the very end. She feared what might happen if they used technology they did not fully understand. She feared the Council's response. Most of all, she feared that humanity would start a war it could not win. But Admiral Han had been firm. The Council had shown its true face. They had killed a human child and called it acceptable. They had denied justice and expected humanity to accept it. If Earth did nothing, they would forever be seen as weak and powerless. We either show them we matter, Han had said, or we accept that human lives will never be valued by the galaxy. The submarine reached the Mariana Deep Station after 3 hours. The station had been built in secret 80 years ago, hidden beneath miles of ocean water. Only a handful of people in each generation knew about it. Only the highest levels of government were told about what it protected. The station's doors opened, and Admiral Han stepped out into the massive underwater facility. Engineers and scientists moved through the corridors, all of them working with quiet urgency. They had been preparing for this moment for weeks, ever since news of Minji's death had reached Earth. Minho Kang met her at the main control room. He was 58 years old and had spent the last 20 years of his life studying the fleet. He knew every ship, every system, every mystery that the ancient vessels contained. Admiral, he said, nodding respectfully. We're ready. The crews are standing by. Han looked through the observation window. Beyond it lay the caverns, vast spaces carved into the ocean floor by forces unknown. And within those caverns rested the fleet, 847 warships, each one built from materials that human science could not fully explain. Each one powered by energy sources that still worked after thousands, perhaps millions of years. Each one equipped with weapons that made Earth's most advanced technology look primitive. The fleet had been discovered by accident in 2267. A deep-sea exploration team had found the first cavern and reported strange readings. The government had immediately classified the discovery and built the station to study it in secret. For decades, scientists had worked to understand the ships. They found that the vessels responded to human commands once the proper interface codes were discovered. They learned to read some of the ancient language in the computer systems. They discovered that whoever built these ships had intended them to be found and used, but they had never activated the full fleet. They had tested individual ships in controlled environments, learning how they worked. They had run simulations and trained crews. They had prepared for the day when Earth might need this hidden arsenal. That day had come. Admiral Han walked through the station to the docking bay. Her hand-picked crew waited there. Yuna Song, the best navigation specialist in Earth's fleet, Jaehyun Yoon, a weapons expert who understood the ancient systems better than anyone, and dozens more, all volunteers, all ready to risk everything. Among them stood Junho Park. His eyes were red from crying, but his jaw was set with determination. This was Minji's father, the man who had lost his daughter to the Council's cold justice. When he heard about the fleet activation, he had immediately volunteered. Admiral Han had tried to refuse him, thinking he was too emotionally involved, but Junho had looked her in the eye and said simply, "She was my daughter. I will fly for her." Han had understood. She gave him command of one of the heavy assault groups. If anyone deserved to face the Council, it was him. They boarded the flagship, a massive dreadnought that the engineers had nicknamed the Reckoning. Admiral Han settled into the command chair. It was surprisingly comfortable, as if it had been designed for human proportions. Perhaps it had been. She placed her hand on the control panel. The ship responded immediately. Lights flickered on throughout the cavern. Systems that had been dormant for ages hummed to life. The main view screen activated, showing readiness indicators for all 847 ships. Minho Kang's voice came through the communication system. "Admiral, all ships are responding. Power levels are optimal. Weapon systems are online. The fleet is ready." Han took a deep breath. This was the moment. Once they did this, there was no going back. Earth would either gain the respect it deserved, or humanity would face destruction. But she thought of Minji Park, a 7-year-old girl who had died for picking up a pretty stone. A child whose life had been dismissed as unimportant by beings who called themselves civilized. A daughter, a sister, a student, a friend, a human being who had mattered. "All ships," Admiral Han said clearly. "This is Admiral Jiwoo Han. Today we rise, not for conquest, not for revenge, but for justice, for a little girl named Minji Park, and for every human being who has been told they don't matter. Today we show the galaxy who we are. Today we wake up." She gave the command. The fleet activated as one. 847 ships, all powering up simultaneously. The energy surge was so massive that it registered on seismic sensors across the planet. Scientists who were not cleared to know about the fleet scrambled to explain the readings. They would not find an explanation. The cavern doors opened, massive hatches that had remained sealed for millennia. Water rushed in, but the ship's shields deflected it easily. One by one, the vessels rose from their resting places. The Reckoning led the way. Its engines, silent and powerful, pushed it upward through the water. The other ships followed in perfect formation. They rose through the depths, through the darkness, toward the light above. On the surface, satellites detected them first. 847 unidentified objects rising from the Pacific Ocean. Military commanders across the world went on high alert, thinking it was an attack. Then they received the coded message from Admiral Han. "Stand down. This is Earth Defense Fleet. We are not a threat." The ancient fleet broke through the ocean surface in a display of power that took the breath away from everyone who witnessed it. Water cascaded off their hulls. Their shields glowed with soft blue light. Their engines hummed with barely contained energy. They rose into the sky, climbing higher and higher until they reached orbit. There they arranged themselves in a massive formation above Earth, visible from the ground as points of light in the daytime sky. President Do-Hyun Lee watched from his office as the fleet took position. His hands were shaking. Secretary General Hyuna Nam stood beside him, tears running down her face. They had done it. Earth had played its hidden card. On the flagship, Admiral Han looked at the view of Earth below. Her home, her planet, the world that had produced a species capable of both great compassion and terrible fury. "Open all channels," she told her communication officer. "Every frequency, every species, every corner of the galaxy. I want everyone to hear this." The communication officer worked quickly. Within seconds, the quantum communication array was active, broadcasting across the entire galaxy simultaneously. It was a feat that should have been impossible with known technology. But the ancient builders had made it possible. The Council fleet emerged from faster-than-light travel at the edge of Earth's solar system. 5,000 warships representing 8 of the 12 Council species. They arranged themselves in perfect military formation, their weapons armed, their shields raised, their crews ready for battle. Admiral Krelvor commanded from his flagship, a massive dreadnought that had won 20 major battles. He looked at the tactical display showing Earth's ancient fleet in orbit around their homeworld. 847 ships. He had 5,000. The math was simple. All ships maintain formation, he ordered. Display overwhelming force. Once they see what they face, they will surrender. Humans are emotional, but they are not stupid. They know they cannot win. He broadcast one final warning to Earth. Humanity, this is your last chance. Stand down your ships. Surrender the illegal fleet. Accept council authority. Refuse, and we will occupy your planet. You have 1 hour. On the flagship of the ancient fleet, Admiral Jiwoo Han listened to the ultimatum. She looked at her crew, these men and women who had volunteered to face impossible odds. She thought of Minji Park, a 7-year-old girl who would never grow up. She thought of every human who had ever been dismissed, ignored, or told they did not matter. No, she said simply. Then she broadcast her response for the entire galaxy to hear. We gave you 72 hours to deliver justice. You chose war. So be it. All ships, Han continued, now addressing her fleet. Execute battle plan. Captain Kim, begin your run. Show them what we are. Sora Kim's fast attack group moved first. 127 ships, smaller and more agile than the Council's heavy cruisers. The Council commanders watched them approach on their sensors and prepared to fire. Then something impossible happened. The human ships flickered. They did not disappear, but they became translucent like ghosts. The Council's targeting systems went wild, unable to lock on. The computers showed the ships in multiple locations at once, as if they existed in several dimensions simultaneously. Sora Kim's voice was calm as she guided her group through the phase shift. This was technology the ancient builders had mastered, the ability to partially exist in other dimensions. To outside observers, her ships seemed to flicker in and out of reality. To the Council's weapon systems, they might as well have been shooting at shadows. All ships engage targets, Kim ordered. Her fleet opened fire. The weapons they used did not look like conventional energy beams. They fired particles that ignored shields entirely, passing through defensive barriers as if they were not there. The particles struck hull armor directly, overloading power systems and disabling ships in seconds. The Council's outer defensive line collapsed within minutes. 37 ships disabled, their crews scrambling to understand what had happened. Their shields had not failed. The enemy weapons had simply ignored them. Admiral Krelvor stared at his tactical display in disbelief. This was not how battles worked. Ships did not phase through dimensions. Weapons did not ignore shields. His 30 years of military experience meant nothing against technology he had never imagined. All ships tighten formation, he ordered. Concentrate defensive fire. Mutual support protocols. We outnumber them 6-1.
Hold the line.
The Council fleet pulled together into a tight defensive formation. It was a textbook maneuver, one that had won countless battles throughout history. Ships supporting each other, covering each other's blind spots, creating a wall of combined firepower that nothing could penetrate. It was exactly what Lieutenant Yoonji Bayek had predicted they would do. Commander Park, Admiral Han said quietly, they have gathered themselves for you. Execute Void Gate insertion. Hit them from within. Junho Park's heavy assault group consisted of 200 massive dreadnoughts. They did not approach the Council fleet from outside. Instead, they used another piece of builder technology that should not have been possible. Void gates. Portals through space itself. The portals opened inside the Council's tight formation. One moment, the space was empty. The next moment, 200 human dreadnoughts materialized in the middle of the enemy fleet. Junho Park looked at the picture of his daughter on his console. For you, Minji, he whispered. Then he gave the order. All ships, full weapons release. Show no mercy. The human dreadnoughts unleashed everything they had. Energy weapons that made the Council's heaviest guns look like toys. Missile swarms with targeting computers that predicted where enemy ships would be before they moved. Gravity pulse weapons that crushed vessels into compressed metal. At point-blank range, inside the Council's own formation, the effect was devastating. Ships exploded. Others were torn apart by gravitational forces. Some simply stopped functioning, their systems overloaded by electromagnetic pulses. The Council formation broke. Ships scattered in every direction. Their perfect military order shattered. Commanders screamed contradictory orders. Communication systems jammed by technology they did not understand. The tight defensive formation that should have been their strength became a trap. Admiral Krelvor tried to regain control. All ships scatter and regroup. Pattern Delta, break formation and create distance. But his orders could not reach most of his fleet. The human jamming was too effective. Sora Kim's fast attack group, having disabled the outer defensive line, now swept through the scattered council ships. They moved like dancers, impossible to target, always one step ahead of enemy weapons. Each pass left more disabled ships in their wake. The battle lasted 37 minutes. When it ended, the council fleet had been shattered. 2,847 ships disabled or destroyed. Admiral Krelvor's flagship was intact but powerless. The remaining council ships were retreating in disorder, jumping to faster-than-light travel as quickly as they could. Earth's ancient fleet had not lost a single ship. Admiral Han surveyed the battlefield. Part of her felt sick at the destruction. These were living beings, people with families and homes and dreams. But another part of her remembered why they were here. The council had killed a child and called it acceptable. They had sent 5,000 warships to threaten Earth's homeworld. They had learned their lesson. She opened all communication channels once more. Every receiver in the galaxy would hear this message. Every species, every world, every colony. We did not want this war, Han said, her voice carrying across the wreckage. We wanted justice, a trial, accountability, reform. You could have given us these things peacefully. Instead, you sent 5,000 warships to threaten our homeworld. Now you know what we know. Humanity does not start wars, but we end them. The Council has 48 hours. Bring those responsible for Minji Park's death to trial. Reform your protocols. Value all sapient life equally. Or we will visit every Council world and teach you the same lesson we taught your fleet today. We will not ask again. She paused, letting the silence speak for her. Then she said 7 words that would be remembered throughout galactic history. You killed one child. We awakened an empire. The transmission ended. Across the galaxy, beings who had dismissed humanity as young and weak now looked at their screens in shock. They had just watched a fleet 6 times larger than the human force get destroyed in less than an hour. On SciFiPrime, the council chambers were silent. Archmagistrate Velcro sat with his head in his hands. Admiral Krelvor, rescued from his disabled flagship, stood before the council in shame. Councillor Thexara looked at the battle reports and felt a chill run through her. The humans had not used their full fleet. They had committed less than half their ships and achieved total victory. If they decided to attack Council worlds, nothing could stop them. Grand Chancellor Vesitala, the wise leader of the Thalan Confederation, stood up. She was known throughout the galaxy for her fairness and intelligence. Now she spoke with quiet authority. We have been fools, she said simply. We treated humanity as inferiors. We dismissed their grief. We denied them justice. We threatened them with overwhelming force. And now we have learned what happens when ancient weapons fall into the hands of those who have been wronged. The question now is simple. Do we continue this path to destruction? Or do we finally give them what they asked for? Justice. Admiral Jiwoo Han's voice echoed across the galaxy. Every ship, every station, every colony with a communication receiver heard her words. In the council chambers on SciFiPrime, the 12 species representatives stopped their discussions and listened. On human colonies scattered across space, families gathered around screens. On alien worlds, beings who had never given humanity a second thought suddenly paid attention. To the Galactic Council, and all who hear this message, Han began, her voice steady and clear. 7 days ago, a human child named Minji Park was killed. She was 7 years old. She made a mistake. She picked up something she should not have touched. For this, she was shot and killed without warning. We brought this matter to the council. We asked for justice. We asked for accountability. We asked that those responsible face consequences for taking a child's life. The council refused. They said the guards followed proper protocols. They said it was acceptable. They told us to accept their decision and move on. Han paused, letting her words sink in across countless worlds. We do not accept this. We will never accept this. Earth has been patient. Earth has been diplomatic. We have followed your rules, respected your laws, and asked only to be treated as equals. But you have shown us that human life has no value in your courts. You have shown us that our children are acceptable casualties in your bureaucratic systems. So we show you this. Han gestured, and the fleet's lights brightened, visible even from the surfaces of distant planets. This is Earth's fleet. These ships have waited beneath our oceans for longer than your oldest civilizations have existed. We did not build them, but we found them. We learned them. We mastered them. And now we wake them. You have 72 hours. Bring those responsible for Minji Park's death to trial. Reform your protocols to value all sapient life equally. Show us that justice means something in your council. If you refuse, if you dismiss us again, then humanity will deliver its own justice. We did not want this, but we will not allow our children to be murdered without consequence. The transmission ended. Silence fell across the galaxy, the kind of silence that comes when something fundamental has changed. On SciFiPrime, the council chambers erupted into chaos. Delegates shouted at each other in a dozen different languages. Some demanded immediate military action. Others called for caution. A few sat in stunned silence, trying to process what they had just witnessed. Archmagistrate Velcros of the Vorian delegation was furious. His face, normally composed and dignified, showed open rage. This is terrorism, an act of war. Humanity threatens the entire galactic order because one child broke our sacred laws. They must be crushed immediately. But Councillor Thexara, the Thalan intelligence director, held up a hand for silence. She was known for her calm, analytical mind, and right now her mind was working through a problem that terrified her. Where did they get those ships? She asked quietly. The chamber fell silent. Our sensors show 847 vessels with energy signatures we have never seen before. The quantum broadcast reached every corner of the galaxy simultaneously. That requires technology beyond our capabilities. So I ask again, where did they get those ships? Her analysts had been working since the moment the fleet appeared. They had compared the energy readings against every known species technology. They had checked historical records going back thousands of years. And they had found something that made Thexara's blood run cold. The signatures match ancient builder technology, she said. Not similar, not comparable. Exact matches. Humanity has found functional builder ships. The chamber went completely silent. Every species in the galaxy knew the legends of the builders. An ancient civilization that had existed billions of years ago, before any current species had evolved. They had left traces across thousands of worlds, ruins, and artifacts that proved they had once controlled the entire galaxy. But no one had ever found functional builder technology. The ruins were always empty, the artifacts always inert. The builders had vanished completely, leaving only questions behind, until humanity found their war fleet. Admiral Krelvor of the Kryn Empire stood up. He was the supreme commander of the Council's military forces, a position he had held for 30 years. He had fought in a dozen wars and won them all. He did not believe in retreating from challenges. Builder technology or not, they are outnumbered, he declared. We have over 10,000 warships. We can mobilize 5,000 to Earth within 48 hours. Even with superior technology, 800 ships cannot defeat 5,000. We crush this rebellion now before it spreads. Thexara tried to argue. We should investigate first, negotiate. Find out what else they might have. Starting a war with unknown technology is foolish. But Krelvor would not listen. Neither would most of the Council. They were ancient species used to ruling the galaxy. They would not be threatened by young humans who had stumbled upon old weapons. The vote was taken. The Council would reject Earth's ultimatum. They would mobilize their fleet. They would show humanity its place in the galactic order. Admiral Krelvor composed his response and broadcast it to Earth. His voice carried the weight of certainty and power. Humanity, you have made a grave mistake. Your ultimatum is rejected. The Council's decision stands. You will stand down your ships immediately. You will surrender this illegal fleet for study and disarmament. You will accept Council authority. Failure to comply will result in the complete military occupation of Earth. You have 1 hour to respond. On the flagship, Admiral Han listened to Krelvor's message. She had expected this response. The Council was too proud, too set in its ways to back down from a challenge. They thought their numbers would be enough. They were wrong. Han turned to her crew. Prepare for combat. All groups take your assigned positions. Captain Sora Kim, your fast attack group will engage first. Commander Junho Park, your heavy assault group will follow. Lieutenant Yoonji Baek, coordinate with the AI systems. Let's show them what they're facing. Sora Kim commanded 127 of the fastest ships in the fleet. She was 32 years old, the youngest captain in Earth's defense forces. She had trained on the ancient ships for 5 years, learning their capabilities, pushing them to their limits. Now she would show the galaxy what those limits were. Junho Park prepared his heavy assault group. His hands were steady on the controls of his flagship, which he had named Minji's Vengeance. His daughter's picture was displayed on his command console. He looked at it and made a silent promise. This was for her. This was so no other parent would feel what he felt. Lieutenant Yoonji Baek was only 24 years old, but she was a tactical genius. She had spent 3 years working with the ancient AI systems, learning how they thought, how they fought. The AIs had taught her strategies that no human military academy had ever conceived. Now she put those strategies into action. Across human space, people watched their screens and waited. They knew their fleet was outmatched in numbers. They knew the Council had more ships, more experience, more resources, but they also knew that sometimes the underdog wins. Sometimes the righteous cause prevails, and sometimes ancient civilizations leave weapons behind for a reason. Admiral Han composed her final message before the battle. She broadcast it not just to the Council fleet but to the entire galaxy once again. We gave you 72 hours to deliver justice. You chose war instead. You could have given us a trial. You could have reformed your laws. You could have shown that you value life. You refused, so be it. Let it be known that humanity did not want this. But we will not back down. We will not surrender, and we will not let our children's deaths be dismissed as acceptable. For Minji Park and for every being who has ever been told their life does not matter, we fight. May the galaxy remember this day. 24 hours after the battle, the Galactic Council met in emergency session. The mood was grim. 3 species, the Kryn, Vorians, and Selenites, still argued for total war. They wanted to mobilize every ship in the galaxy and crush humanity, regardless of the cost. But Councillor Thexera stood before the assembly with new information that changed everything. We have completed our analysis of the human fleet, she said, her voice carrying across the silent chamber. These are builder ships, not similar technology, not inspired by builder designs, actual builder warships, fully functional, preserved for billions of years. She displayed holographic images showing the energy signatures, the material composition, the quantum mechanics of the phase shift technology. Everything matched the ancient ruins found across the galaxy. The builders controlled the entire galaxy, Thexera continued. Every species knows this. We have found traces of their civilization on thousands of worlds. For 10,000 years we have searched for their technology. Humanity found it. They found 847 warships. She paused, letting the implications sink in. If they have 800 ships, what else might they have found? More ships? Builder factories? Builder weapons? We are not fighting humanity. We are fighting ghosts from the galaxy's forgotten age, and humanity has the keys to their tomb. The chamber fell into heavy silence. Every delegate understood what this meant. The builders had ruled the galaxy with technology so advanced that modern science still could not understand it. If humanity had access to more of that technology, the Council could not win. Grand Chancellor Vesitala rose to speak. She was old and wise, respected throughout the galaxy for her fair judgments. Now she spoke with the weight of accumulated years. We have failed, she said simply. We dismissed a grieving species. We denied them justice. We threatened them with violence. All because we believed ourselves superior. We were wrong. The question now is simple. Do we continue down this path to mutual destruction, or do we finally give them what they asked for? The vote was taken. This time it was not close. The Council voted to accept Earth's demands. 46 hours after the battle, Grand Chancellor Vesitala broadcast the Council's response. She spoke not from a position of strength, but from a position of regret. Humanity, we have failed you. We dismissed your grief when we should have shared it. We denied you justice when we should have demanded it ourselves. We met your reasonable requests with threats and violence. We were wrong. The guards responsible for Minji Park's death will face trial. Not a Vorian court, but a special tribunal that includes human judges. They will be judged fairly, and if found guilty, they will be punished according to the severity of their actions. The Vorian protocols regarding sacred sites will be reformed. De-escalation will be required. Non-lethal methods will be prioritized. The protection of sapient life, especially children, will take precedence over the protection of objects, no matter how sacred. And we propose a new accord. Humanity will join the Council not as junior members, but as full equals with voting rights. In return, Earth will work with us to understand the builder technology and ensure it is used wisely. On the flagship, Admiral Ji Woo Han listened to the broadcast. It was not everything she had hoped for, but it was justice. It was accountability. It was change. She consulted with President Do-Hyun Lee and the Security Council. After long discussions, they agreed to accept the Council's terms. But they also made it clear that Earth would keep control of the ancient fleet. The ships would serve as peacekeepers, protecting vulnerable colonies and enforcing the new laws. But they would remain under human command. 3 months later, the trial took place. The Vorian guards who had killed Minji Park stood before a tribunal consisting of 3 human judges, 3 council judges, and 1 independent mediator. The trial was broadcast across the galaxy. The evidence was clear. The guards had followed their protocols, but those protocols were flawed. They had chosen to use lethal force against a child without attempting any de-escalation. They had made no effort to understand that she was just a confused little girl who did not know what she had done wrong. The verdict came after 2 weeks guilty. The guards were sentenced to 30 years imprisonment each. It was not enough to bring Minji back, but it was justice. It was a message that every life mattered regardless of species. Admiral Ji Woo Han traveled to New Haven Colony for the dedication ceremony. The place where Minji had died was now a memorial garden. Human and alien children played there together, protected by new laws written in the wake of tragedy. Taehyun Park, now 13 years old, stood beside Admiral Han. He looked at the memorial statue of his sister, showing her smiling and holding the pretty stone she had found. Was it worth it? He asked quietly. The war? The deaths? All of it? Admiral Han thought carefully before answering. We did not do this for vengeance, she said. We did it so that no other child, human or alien, would be killed because of bad laws and arrogant people who forgot that every life matters. Your sister's death changed the galaxy. That does not make it fair. That does not bring her back. But it means she mattered. Taehyun nodded slowly. He touched the memorial stone, feeling its smooth surface. Then he spoke words that would appear on the memorial alongside his sister's name. She just wanted to see something pretty. She should have been allowed to grow up. 5 years passed. The galaxy changed in ways both large and small. The Galactic Council reformed significantly. Human judges served on every major tribunal. Council protocols prioritized de-escalation and valued sapient life equally. Young species were given genuine representation. Frontier colonies had better protections. Humanity's ancient fleet expanded as more ships were awakened from the deep ocean caverns. Over 3,000 vessels now served as the Council's peacekeeping force. They responded to crises, protected vulnerable colonies, and enforced the new laws. But they remained under human command, a permanent reminder that the Council's power was no longer absolute. Joint Human Council research teams explored Earth more thoroughly. They found builder facilities on the Moon, on Mars, in the asteroid belt. Deep scans revealed thousands more ships in stasis, buried in caverns far below the ocean floor. Earth, it seemed, had been chosen by the builders long ago. Humanity had inherited more than just a planet. They had inherited a legacy. The ancient AI cores, when fully translated, revealed a message recorded billions of years ago. The builders had written it for whoever would eventually find their ships. The message was simple. We built these ships to protect the innocent. We built this world as a refuge. We built this arsenal because we learned too late that some evils cannot be negotiated with. They must be stopped. Use these gifts wisely. Protect what matters. Never forget that the strong exist to defend the weak, not to dominate them. Admiral Ji Woo Han, now Grand Admiral of the Combined Fleet, read that message often. She met regularly with the Council and they listened to her. They no longer dismissed her concerns. They no longer treated humanity as inferior. On New Haven Colony, children from a dozen different species played in Minji's garden. They were protected by laws that valued every life equally. They were safe because people had fought to make them safe. On the garden's central monument, 7 words were inscribed in every council language. They served as both a memorial and a warning. She mattered. They all matter. Remember why. The galaxy had learned its lesson. Humanity did not seek war. Humanity valued peace and cooperation. But threaten their children? Dismiss their grief? Deny them justice? Then they would remind you why ancient civilizations leave weapons behind. Because some things are worth fighting for. Because some prices must be paid. Because sometimes the young species that everyone dismisses turns out to be the inheritors of the galaxy's oldest power. The builders had known this. They had chosen Earth for a reason. They had left their greatest weapons for a species that would use them not for conquest, but for protection. The Council learned it the hard way, and now the galaxy would never forget. Humanity had awakened, and in awakening they had changed everything.